This is Gareth Southgate, and this is the Three Lions podcast.
Hello and welcome to the Three Lions podcast. My name is Russell Osborne and this is an independent England supporters podcast. I hope you're well and I hope you're keeping safe. Thank you for the feedback on the recent episode that featured Marco Kunauer, our German England fan. If, like Marco, you follow the Three Lions from abroad and would like to share your story, please do get in touch. I'll let you know how to do that at the end of the episode. And I guarantee you'll make it that far. As coming up, I speak with the current chief football writer for the Times newspaper, Henry Winter, someone who you'll hear is very passionate about our national team. First though, just wanted to give a mention to the England Supporters Club. Now I know many of us are quizzing at the moment, but they've been doing a great job of keeping supporters entertained in these times, with a small weekly quiz for travel club members. Not that I've been doing particularly well, but I did see the one that involved Gareth Southgate. That was a tough one. And well done for him for coming on board. He gave an insight as to what he is currently doing. He's not just sitting at home twiddling his thumbs, you know. I think it's available to watch via the England social media channels. And also, the last podcast, we were joined by CJ Joyner, who explained the Block 109 fundraiser. Well, that first draw has been made. Well done if your name was pulled out. Take a look on Twitter at England Block 109 for more information and maybe about joining up for the next draw. Right, I think you're going to like this one. On to my chat with Henry Winter. I'd like to welcome to the Three Lions podcast. It's my pleasure to welcome English football journalist. He is currently chief football writer for The Times, Henry Winter. Hello there.
Hi, Russell. How you doing?
I'm very well, thank you. Yourself?
Yeah, very good, mate. Very good. Missing the football, but as everyone else, admiring the real heroes at the NHS.
Oh, aren't we all? Yes. Yeah, football is a sport as well, just taking that back seat. But it does really point out now how much we do not rely on it, but miss it. But I'm guessing this situation that we're in, sort of a lockdown, is a completely new situation for yourself as a journalist.
Well, I mean, it's bizarre. I mean, I've been doing this job for 35 years, and I'm normally driving 1,000 miles a week. And my car's just sort of sat out there saying, what's going on, mate? We're normally sort of hitting the road, and this time on a Friday, I'll be on the way back from doing an interview in the northwest or the southeast or wherever. So yeah, missing it, and I feel a little bit for. I spoke to Marcus Rashford and Dele Alli the other day, and I do feel for them because they were so looking forward to this summer, and obviously Marcus was coming back from injury and Dele was sort of, looking for his form, showing signs of it, and trying to get ready for the for the Euros. And obviously that's been put back a year. And I'm sure you found this, but I found this with this England generation. They really love playing for England. There's no club versus country cliques. There's no it's about the money. It's not. These lot are genuine. I mean, it's that All Blacks thing that Gareth Southgate keeps going on about. I can't use the exact expression, but basically it's a no idiots philosophy. And I sometimes read so-and-so is being linked with England, and I go, he's got no chance. Southgate won't have him, either on an age issue, but also on character. And so they're a good bunch, this young England generation: Raheem Sterling, Trent Alexander-Arnold, Harry Kane, slightly older. They're a good bunch. And I'm actually sort of feel for them a bit at the moment because they're desperate to play. They would have loved to have played this summer, building on the back of fourth place in the world at the World Cup. So, but look, we all accept there's far more significant things going on in the world.
Yeah, I mean, how do you think this will affect football and the England team? Will it put us a step back with regards to next year now? How will it affect us, do you think?
Well, you could argue that it will help from a very sort of cynical level, and that Marcus Rashford and Harry Kane will be fully fit. I think Marcus was getting back to fitness, judging by the work he was doing on his bike, and Harry Kane was obviously stretching and getting back into fitness as well. I think, look, it depends how many games are played between now and the Euros of whatever it is, 14 months time. But I think we could see Dean Henderson stepping up more. We've seen how brilliant he's been at Sheffield United, how he's responded to Chris Wilder's stick and carrot approach, how he could put more pressure on Jordan Pickford. I'm a huge Pickford fan. I thought he was terrific in the World Cup. But I just think it's good if you've got a really sort of high-class number two. Dean Henderson will obviously succeed De Gea at Manchester United, so he's quite a player. So I think, you look at the sort of the issues that England have had, arguably in goal, certainly the right-sided centre-half. You can see Joe Gomez, another year at Liverpool, will slot easily into that role there. I hope John Stones refines his form, because I think there's a fantastic footballer in there who's suited to the modern era in terms of the bringing the ball out from the back. Obviously needs to address some of the mistakes. So I think, in a year's time, if you're, deliberately looking on the positive side, I think there could be, extra encouraging elements. Chilwell obviously is developing superbly. Trent, England got so many white backs. It's fantastic. And then you've got Jordan Henderson, who people are beginning to appreciate for the exceptional footballer that he is. He was always admired within the dressing room, but I think now that the public are seeing, partly because they keep seeing him lift trophies, but they're also seeing just what a good leader he is. He's better technically than people think. His attitude is just first class, whatever the score. He's there for the team. I think England are still looking for a creative player in central midfield. Harry Winks, arguably, if he trains on, and then obviously there's the whole sort of Maddison Grealish debate. I still think Grealish is best coming in off the left, although he's he does like playing number 10 like Maddison. And then you look at the front three. They're not many better front threes as a three in the world. Obviously, France have got Griezmann and Mbappe. But you look at that front line of Rashford, Kane, and Sterling, and you look at the damage they did. You would have been there in Spain, in Seville, in their backyard. So I think England are in a really good place, and I think when football does return eventually, and obviously England are going to be a long way behind club football, I think there'll be such a desire to put on that shirt again. Obviously, that will be echoed, with other countries, but I think there'll be something even more special about a country that's been through an experience like this, then being represented as a country again. I think there'll be such an emotional reaction. And of course, as you well know, 5 of the games, if England get to the final, will be at Wembley. It'll be Euro 96 times 5. It'll be bonkers. It would just be what a celebration.
Oh, it'd be great. Yes, we can. Yeah, just keep our fingers crossed, keep hoping. But as you say, yes, there'll be plenty of other countries. I'm guessing Italy and Spain will also be having similar thoughts to ourselves.
The Netherlands. You look at the generation of players they've got, the quality they've got in goal and throughout the team. They've got some exceptional players. France, Germany, you can never discount. So yeah, there's always, but England are 4th in the world, and they're there on merit. They've got a good young team. They've got stamina. They've got hunger. They've got the manager who has taken the heat out of the shirt, who has improved the relations between the dressing room and the press box, between the dressing room and the support. You would have been there in Malta, and it was just after half time when England fans were picking up their the flags from the apron of the pitch and heading back into town, turning their backs on the team. You won't get that now, because everyone is. Gareth has united all separate strands around England, from coaching to players, the club element, the cliques have gone to support, to the media as well. So, the work that Gareth has done, and not simply, and everyone focuses on what he's done with the England national team, but also the work that he did behind the scenes, just getting small-sided games coming in, enhancing technical abilities at a younger age. so the kids from a younger age weren't playing on full-size pitches and bringing us more into line with the European model. Little things like that, which don't often get spoken about. He was hugely instrumental going around the counties and the leagues and saying to them, listen, can you just stop playing simply to win, simply on big pitches? It's not all about medals. It's actually about technical development of these players. And I think even longer term, you've only got to look at some of the talented players who are coming through. I mean, you could actually form a really good England team just from a 4 mile square area of South London. If you look at, you think of Hudson-Odoi and Sancho and players like that. So, yeah, I think things are very, very, very encouraging. And England have learned how to take penalties, which I didn't expect to see in my lifetime.
Yeah, well, I mean, you've seen a fair amount of England games. England have played, 1,001 games now, and I read that you had witnessed or been, is it a quarter of them?
Not a clue, but I've not missed a game since '93.
Okay,
as a journalist, yeah, I think I've seen about a third, but then I might have got that wrong. Anyway, look, I'm not particularly counting, but I know I've not missed a game since '93, and obviously saw games as a fan before that. So,
what was the first game you saw as a fan?
I mean, the one that really springs to mind is Lineker's debut '84. Woodcock scored at Hampden Park.
Okay,
and I was actually with some Scottish friends. I still actually got it. Yeah, I've got it on the wall here. The Remember Bannockburn flag. I still got that. And I remember taking it home, and my mother said, "But darling, didn't we lose?" And I said, "No, it was 1-1." And she was talking historically, and I was talking football-wise.
Oh, I see.
It was Lineker's debut, '84. Pretty sure it was '84. Yeah, so that's one that sort of springs to mind. And obviously, I grew up quite near Wembley. So, I mean, as a kid, our playing school pitches for a while, certainly a couple of years, were the old London Transport, as was grounds behind Wembley Park Station. So we used to sort of kick around on there as I'd been about 7, 8, 9, and look over and see the Twin Towers. So it wasn't embedded in me like it was with Raheem Sterling. He was always cycling around on his bike, looking up at the arch being built. But it was always featured large.
So how did the journalist side of things come about? So you then in 1993 writing your first England piece?
Yeah, I did a few England pieces before that because I started in '85. Look, I've got the job now that I've wanted since I was sort of 13, 14, 15. I quite like the idea of travelling the world, watching football, and someone paying for it. And
don't we all?
Cultures. Well, I mean, like you guys. I mean, I keep bumping into CJ and you, and scattered around the world, and you're enjoying the culture, you're enjoying the experience, you're having a drink with the locals.
Yeah.
You're getting behind the team, and I think it's brilliant. I mean, I've been through some dark days with England, a few riots in the south of France and in Ireland, particularly at Lansdowne Road in '95, and it's good being with England fans now. I mean, I think it's great that when you go abroad, you're playing matches with the locals. You're often going to lay a wreath or whatever. If there's some local national memorial, you're often going and doing that as well. I think you're doing an amazing amount of goodwill, and the players recognise that, and the FA recognise that as well. So more power to your elbow. But to be honest, I just like catching up with you guys and having a drink like we did that place you had in Portugal. I mean, yeah. I thought I had a half decent rental place, but then I looked at the place that you and CJ had, and I thought, my God, I'm going to get you to book my travel next time.
Oh, you're more than welcome to come along, I'm sure. Just going back to the journalistic side of things, you must have seen things change sort of rapidly, I guess, since you first began.
Well, two things. First, technology. If I sat in the back garden of your very palatial place in Portugal, I could file a piece from there, either picking up the Wi-Fi or going on my 4G. I could file the piece on my iPhone. Whereas when I was starting out, you're almost walking out of Vicarage Road, running down the road, knocking on a front door and asking Mrs. Miggins if you can borrow her phone to lid copy to Fleet Street. The other thing that's happened is there are just so many matches around now. So I can go to, I think the most I've done is about 140 odd games a season, a big tournament season, obviously.
Yeah.
So there's so many games, and I've been very fortunate that my career has coincided with sort of Sky and BT scattering matches across the week. I have an issue with it, and I write a lot about it in terms of how late they announce when the televised games are going to be and which the televised game is going to be, because I know many fans, I know this is a more club issue than an international issue, but it's, it's expensive for fans to suddenly have a game changed. They've booked accommodation, they've booked travel, they maybe booked time off work. It's an issue with their family, partners, whatever. So, from a professional perspective, having games across the week is manna for me, because it's huge. And if you look at the coverage now, I think when England won the World Cup, there were about 3 or 4 pages of say your average broadsheet on it. If England won the World Cup now, there would be probably 3 days of supplements. There'd be wraparounds. There would be, countless columns for a month. So, yeah, there's been an explosion. Everyone talks about the media contracting over football. I can only see it getting bigger. It's just gone into different forms. So that's, I guess, the final change. Yeah. Is that a lot of people who consider themselves newspaper journalists, actually we're not now. We're print journalists, and we appear digitally, we appear online, we appear in tweets, as well as podcasts, whatever. So I think we're just journalists at heart, certainly football fans at heart. And if I look around, one final thing on that, if I look around the press box, I don't know anyone who doesn't want England to do well. It's an absolute myth that we quite like England to do badly. Everyone wants England to do well. For some people, it's purely a professional thing that if England are doing well, it's fantastic for circulation. More people want to read you. You've got more chance of staying longer at a tournament. But actually, it's because we really like the players. We really like football. A lot of us, some people are more patriotic than others. But everyone stands for the national anthem. Everyone salutes it. You don't sing in the press box because that's against etiquette. But it's I think covering England, it's in a good place at the moment.
So in the past, you said that everyone's all rooting for England. In the past, you mentioned would there have been people writing or hoping that England didn't succeed? Did you experience that?
I would say of my career, 35 years, I probably knew 2 or 3 of the reporters who maybe who said, look, the international team is hopeless, and it was difficult then when England went and had a good win. So yeah, I think there were a few who had taken there were some managers that I didn't like. I thought McLaren was out of his depth, and I wrote it from the word go. But I would still want the team to do well. I wouldn't let necessarily my desire to be proven right over McLaren. So yeah, I think there's a great support for the national team now. But look, the England press have never been cheerleaders. There's a great desire for the national team to do well because we spend a lot of time with them. You build up relations with the players. I really admire Marcus Rashford as a person and what he stands for, the principles that guide him in life, as well as his ability on the pitch. Remember the great game at Ellen Road before England went out to the World Cup, and that Ronaldinho flip-flap he did down in the corner. What And Trent Alexander's the same. Trent Alexander-Arnold. The ability he's got on the ball, the attacking runs that he makes, the free kicks. I think it was Gary Lineker who said, well, maybe play him in central midfield because he's probably the best passer England have got. England got some special talent as footballers and as people. And I think that's a great mix and almost a privilege to cover.
And one more thing on being a journalist, going back to England's last game, Kosovo away, how long does it take, or give us a brief guideline of how long it takes to write up, submit, and for that to be available for us to read your report?
I filed it 30 seconds before the final whistle.
Really?
Yeah. Because in the old days, it's because the print sites were screaming at you for copy, and nowadays it's because it goes up online. So yeah, I'm within 2 minutes of the final whistle. I'm sort of gathering my breath, packing my laptop away, and getting down to the press conference, or getting down to the mix zone, or to the press room to rewrite. So yeah, I mean, I would do. I mean, with England, I write a lot, so it'd be about 1,300 words on a match, probably 700 words at 60 minutes. I'll file that, and then maybe 80 minutes. I'll file another 300, and then a top and tail, as it's called, first few paragraphs, and then a payoff final paragraph. You file at, well, they like it about 85, 86 minutes. Depends what times kickoff, but normally around 85, 86 minutes. And you just pray there isn't a goal in the last minute.
Well, that was going to be my question. What happens if there is an injury time winner or an own goal or something dramatic that happens in those last moments? Where do you stand then?
Well, it happens regularly. I can remember, it seems like only yesterday, I think I've just about recovered from England-France at Euro 2004, when I think England were cruising 1-0 up, and then a couple of mistakes, and was it Zidane?
Yeah.
Zidane free kick, Zidane penalty, and suddenly that was it. And then later on that night, I happened to be in the same hotel as the French, and I was getting into my lift to go back up to my room. The French were staying there, and there was a French security guy on the lift, and I didn't think anything of it. And I tried to get past him, and he put his hand up and said, "Zidane lift only." And there was Dean Zidane standing in the corner. To be fair, he nodded to me because he realised we were English press. But I thought, my God, I've only just recovered from the first edition, and now Zidane won't let me in the lift.
Yeah, I mean, you must have some great stories of your time on the road. What stories can you let us know or tease us with?
Do you know, there's no teasing with. I'm just so very privileged, like you, to go to amazing places like Japan. I mean, Martin Samuel from the Daily Mail and I would always get up very early in Japan, in Kobe, and go and get on the bullet train about 6 o'clock in the morning and go to Kyoto and have a look around the temples and shrines, because I love experiencing a different culture, and we've got the time out there to go and do that. I mean, probably the most fun things is the England press team. I mean, we always play or try to play on the day of the game against the local press. And I mean, it just slightly rams home to you how seriously people take England. So we will be playing in Poland, and they'd say, yes, we've got the local stadium. It's a 20,000 capacity stadium, and it'd be full. And I'm going along. I mean, I played non-league in Scotland, but I'm pretty useless. And I'm going along with a bunch of hacks, and the occasional ex-pro, and we've had some good players playing for us down here. We just stick them in midfield, and then they just will ping the ball around. But you're looking out there, and you're just going, oh my God, there are 20,000 people there. And we're lining up in the tunnel, and there's God Save the Queen and the Polish national anthem. And not only that, they're showing it live on national television.
Really?
Yeah. That's happened at least 2 or 3 times. Now, I can remember one game we played the England press team against the Welsh before one of the games in Cardiff. And I rang up my counterpart in Wales, the sort of Welsh press team captain. I said, listen, I'm bringing a bunch of journalists down from London. I just want to check you're not going to pull any stunts, and it is going to be a bona fide Welsh media press team. And he says, yes, no problem, boy, absolutely no problem. I remember it was in Ninian Park. They hadn't gone small. They'd gone Ninian Park, probably about 8,000-9,000 people there. We're raising funds for a local hospice. And I remember just sort of coming out of the away dressing room, and first one out of the Welsh dressing room, the home dressing room, was Mark Hughes, followed by Ian Rush, followed by Kevin Ratcliffe, followed by Neville Southall, followed bizarrely by Stuart Cable, who was the drummer of the Stereophonics.
Oh, yes, yeah.
Who was actually a decent player, but who sadly passed away. And then I thought, God, mate, this is crazy. And then the next one out was Joe Calzaghe. And I play at centre back, and I said to Sean Custis, who normally plays centre back or used to play centre back, I said, right, I know who you're marking at corners, so you can take Joe Calzaghe. And so I said to I think it was Mark Hughes or Ian Rush. I said, oh yeah, so you're all local journalists, are you? And Mark Hughes just burst out laughing. He said, yeah, I'm working for sort of like Radio Cymru or Tap FM or whatever. And I mean, look, it was a privilege to be on the pitch with them, and they were great. They were great. So that was, little things like that. You think, well, you just laugh, and you think, what am I doing? Playing games at Wembley, playing games at Hampden. We're fortunate to do this. Look, we're there to write, and I hope entertain and inform, but I hope we have a bit of fun along the way. It's like having a drink with you guys, going out and meeting the fans, because there used to be a few tensions between fans and. I mean, I can remember when I started out, being told not to basically not to sign anything in a hotel because there was a group of England fans who would sign all their bar bills in your name.
Really?
So yeah. I mean, that was a long time ago, and then it's completely different now. And I would say I hope there's a good relationship between the players and the block. Is it 109?
Yes.
Is it 109? Have I got that right?
Block 109. Yes.
I think it's brilliant what you're doing. First, the flags that came, I thought was fantastic, and also this charity initiative that you've got going, I think is absolutely brilliant. Trying to sort of raise money and little things like that. It might seem small and maybe only a few quid and maybe a small gesture, but it's absolutely huge. If you're, say, Poland or Kazakhstan or, to be honest, any country around the world, and England, remember this is England, the FA, the originators of the game, the codifiers of the game, the world's oldest international. If England turn up, it is a huge issue. Even when England were in the doldrums, England being in town was huge. So when the supporters turn up, and they make a gesture to the locals, I'm sure you've seen it down the years, how much it is appreciated. The fact that it's England. I mean, the Three Lions shirt and all that is still, it's still iconic around the world, despite England not having won anything for so long.
And I think that was highlighted in that last game away at Kosovo, the reaction that we as England fans received. I know there was obviously other connotations that went with it, but yes, there are. That when we do go visit these places, as long as it's treated respectfully and we get that in return.
I ended up that night in a bar with a local warlord. Oh, surreal night, absolute surreal night. I was going. He was sort of telling me what he'd been up to. I mean, he was quite a character. So people you meet in life, it's interesting. But I went to see, I think it was about 6 months ago, I went to see Sven-Göran Eriksson at his house in Sweden, and I went there and we just talked, and he became very nostalgic about England and how much he appreciated the support of the fans. He said, you media were always interested in my private life, but the fans basically went, good on you, Sven, and thanks for Munich.
Yes. I mean, Munich, you must have been there. How was that from your point of view?
Well, it was quite sort of special, perhaps even a bit more special, because I was as a kid, I was at school in Munich. My parents took me out of school in London and shoved me in school in Paris and Munich for a while. And I used to go to Bayern Munich games. And unfortunately, I picked the one season where Bayern Munich weren't very good. So it was actually quite nice to go there and just see an exceptional performance. And, I can still hear Steven Gerrard shouting at Rio Ferdinand set, where he just laid the ball off and nodded it down to him, and then Gerrard scored just before half time. And another, what a good bunch of people, Steven Gerrard and Frank Lampard and Rio Ferdinand. And what I've found really good is that, look, I admire them when, like, Rio Ferdinand, Gary Neville and Jamie Carragher go into the television studio, and they are absolutely brilliant pundits. They bring the voice of the dressing room into the studio and into our front rooms, and it's fantastic to hear. But I also love it, the fact that Gerrard and Lampard and Joe Cole, I think Ashley Cole's starting out now, Sol Campbell, people like that are getting into coaching and managing. Maybe there'll be a golden generation of managers, which they'll probably hate me for saying, because they hated the golden generation of players. But, I think it's fantastic that when Southgate leaves, as he may well do after Qatar, I think that there will be a deeper pool of England managers to pick from who will be English. And I think that's really important, that the England manager is English. Because I quite like Sven. Fabio, I just thought was a bit too detached, and he didn't really get the English culture. I think everyone appreciates now that there should be an Englishman in charge of the England team.
Yeah, I mean, on a similar theme, reading in your book, you regularly mention that players sort of should be consulted by the FA for sort of their experience, previous England experience, their expertise, and sort of consulted going forward. Have you seen anything like that? Has that materialised?
Gary Neville should be on the FA board. I mean, you think about Gary Neville's experience as a businessman, as a player, with the club experience, the international experience. I just think all those ideas he's got We need them in football. I mean, he's just, whether it maybe Rio Ferdinand would do it. We just need more of the dressing room and the boardroom. I think clubs need it. I think the international team needs it. I think if you look at certain countries, when, like the Dutch and the Germans in particular, when you see the DFB or the KNVB, their FAs getting off the coaches, you go, well, there's 100 caps there, there's 80 caps there. I do think we need more footballing expertise and experience in the boardroom at the FA.
Do you think that will happen?
I think slowly, yes. I think that, they're certainly sort of, they've talked to the likes of Paul Elliott. I know he was only England B, but he's still, a figure of great substance. I think it will eventually happen because it makes sense. I mean, if I look at, I'm a member of the NUJ, obviously it's all journalists at the top, but if I look at my business, if I look at the boardroom of my organisation, it's mainly packed with former journalists. If I look at the BMA, it's mainly former sort of doctors and surgeons, and I think that's absolutely vital. You need that expertise. So why shouldn't that happen in football? That I think it'd be great if you had a Gary Neville or Jamie Carragher or Rio Ferdinand or Sol Campbell, anyone who I mean, it's difficult. I mean, I can't imagine Gary would have the time, but actually get that expertise, so when they're appointing a New England manager, when there are issues with the players, when they are going overseas, that you haven't got some, in a way, suit going into a boardroom as head of the delegation. You've got 110 caps there.
Yeah, the book that you've written, I mean, so many people that you interviewed, be it Jack Charlton, Chris Waddle, Howard Webb, Lady Elsie Robson as well. All must have, well, I know they all had really interesting stories, which you then wrote about. But is there anyone that you haven't actually come into contact that you think, he would be a great person to interview and get some stories out of?
From an England perspective?
From an England perspective or from a world football?
Well, Messi would be nice. The one I would say, if I was going English, I would go Ashley Cole, because I think through the noughties he was England's most consistent player. I've never seen anyone play Ronaldo better. You think of the Euros in particular. I just thought I know he fell out with the media, but I think that was as much because there was the interest in him on the news pages. But I think he's been properly appreciated. He probably should be more appreciated for what he did for England, also at club level as well. He's a remarkable individual. And I can remember I was interviewing Frank Lampard in New York for the book, and Ashley Cole was there. It's okay, they were playing Galaxy. Ashley Cole was there staying at the same hotel, and I saw him walk out, and he just put his sort of sunglasses on and just walked out into the anonymity of Fifth Avenue. And I sort of gave him a sort of slight glimpse of there's no way he could do that in England.
True.
So I can understand why he would want to spend a bit of time over there. But look, he's back over here. He's doing his coaching. I think he'll be an exceptional coach, perhaps manager one day. But that rather saddened me, that. And dear old Ray Wilkins, God rest his soul, was trying to sort of broker a sort of a mini rapprochement, or certainly a coffee, with a couple of journalists, including me and Ashley Cole. And then I think we were quite close to it. And then there was the headline about the intern being shot at training, which slightly put a kibosh on that one. But yeah, I would talk to Ashley Cole about what it was like playing against Ronaldo, about how he managed to maintain his consistency ever since. I mean, I saw that first game, his debut, which I think was out in Toronto, where he got hit by some lipstick. I mean, it was a bizarre, you were probably there, it was a bizarre old trip, that. I ended up having dinner with Norman Wisdom. I mean, there's just the weird things you do in life. So Norman Wisdom at the other end of the table. I was going, that's Norman Wisdom. It's just bizarre. Anyway, but so Ashley Cole was brilliant that night. So yeah, I think probably Ashley.
Okay, well, good luck. Maybe it can happen. Likewise, Messi as well. You never know. And what would you give as general tips to any budding journalist in these current ages to get on board and go about getting a career in journalism?
Don't sleep. I always say, slightly flippantly, cricket was kind of invented for those of us to catch up on our sleep after the football season, which is a little bit harsh, because I do love cricket, particularly if England are playing. just the normal sort of thing that you would tell your kids: work hard and be nice to people. But being nice to people, being respectful, not losing trust. I think it's very easy to lose trust in this game, and I think it's quite easy to get a reputation. And I think that would be difficult because players talk, managers talk, fans talk. So just think a little bit. Whenever I've written a piece, and if it's particularly a critical piece of someone, I always reread it as if I was the mother or the father of the player. And would they recognise them? Was it fair? Just not necessarily to temper down any criticism, but not to personalise things. And I always get caught out on social media by saying something stupid. And there was one particularly during the World Cup draw out in Brazil. And Ronaldo, the Brazilian Ronaldo, was doing the draw. And I remember tweeting something which I thought was funny, but then I've got a slightly warped sense of humour. And it was, yes, England will today discover their fate, who they're going to play on the road to Rio. And this is also the day when Ronaldo does the draw that England will, football finally will learn who ate all the pies. And the abuse that I got, completely legitimate, pointing out, first, not to be so disrespectful to one of the greatest players ever, but also that I think he had thyroid problems or there was some sort of medical issue at the time. And I thought, right, learn your lesson there, mate, because your notifications were just going up in smoke. I almost had to sort of turn my phone on with gloves, asbestos gloves, because it was so... So I hope I've learned that. I mean, the thing about this job is that you make mistakes on a regular basis, but you also have that opportunity to rectify them in your next piece. And at the end of every week, I sort of have a little think about what I've got right, what I've got wrong. And I normally have more things wrong than right. But, 35 years in, you're still learning, which is actually quite good and encouraging in a way, because it means there's a new challenge every day. So I would just say that advice, just remember players as human beings, I think is just really important. Like Raheem Sterling, I think some in the media gave Raheem Sterling, and I probably did as well, just some unfair stick. And actually, when you hear his backstory, you go, "Oh my God, what you've just done amazingly to have got where you have done in life with the obstacles that were placed in your path." So my admiration for Raheem. Raheem is huge. I mean, I think he's England's most important player. On the pitch, off the pitch. I just think he's just so important. He sets a tone for a generation. I think he's the voice of a generation. So yeah, no, he's. Look, the Joe Gomez incident was a step back. Was unfortunate, but I think there was perhaps a little bit more understanding and a little less of an alacrity to jump on Raheem Sterling because of he'd opened up to us and we got to know him a little bit better. So yeah, I think being fair to people, not personalising it, keeping trust, but it's just like anything in life, it's down to work ethic.
Yeah. Well, thank you for that. I mean, just to round up, I mean, what if you could put your finger on any one England moment in your lifetime that's maybe brought you the most joy for whatever reason, or the most memories, what would that be?
I think the one moment I always go back to, and I mentioned it to Sven, and he just rolled his eyes and looked to the heavens, was that moment when Michael Owen took the ball away from Lucio in the World Cup quarter-final in 2002 against Brazil, went through and scored. And I thought England took the lead. Okay, it was sweltering conditions and it was going to be difficult for England, but I thought, wow, this World Cup has suddenly opened up. And I'm normally fairly measured. But I actually could see England winning the World Cup from there, because it wasn't a great World Cup in terms of quality. You look at Germany, who were in the final, it's one of probably the poorest, and they'd admit that, poorest German teams for years. I just thought that moment there, I thought, wow, this is actually possible. England could seriously win the World Cup again. And then, of course, Ronaldinho, Beckham jumps out of a tackle, and what we didn't know fully at the time was that Michael Owen I knew he was carrying an injury, but I didn't realise it was quite that debilitating, and he had only a few runs in him and they had to be in a straight line. So, yeah, I think that, and well, look, there are other amazing moments. Michael Owen's goal at Saint Etienne was just remarkable. I'm a huge Paul Scholes fan, so anytime he was, like in Marseille, I think when England played there at the start of France in '98, he was good. Penalty shootouts. I mean, I've lived through so many defeats, but then going into the World Cup, Jordan Pickford, Eric Dyer, great moments like that. That was nice. It was, it was almost like watching England grow up.
Yes, I guess, following all those games, seeing it all come through, and well, hopefully, maybe a year or two on, we can hopefully see us raise another piece of silverware. Yeah,
but I think what's good is that the fans and the players and the media are going to tournament with sensible expectations. There's none of this, as Steven Gerrard said after 2006. We went around Germany trumpeting how good we are, and we came home mute with embarrassment. I think there's a sensible level of expectation that England will reach the quarterfinals onwards of the tournament, and then we'll just see what happens. But there's huge respect for the other great teams out there. But I think there's a quiet inner belief in Gareth Southgate, and I think there's now a quiet inner belief in England. And the most beautiful thing is the shirt doesn't weigh heavily on them anymore. They get lifted by putting on the three lions rather than weighed down by it.
Lovely. Henry Winter, thank you very much for your time. Really appreciate it. And I hope you can get back to the day job where you're driving 1,000 miles a week very, very soon safely.
Yeah, same to you. Stay safe and well, Russell.
Yes, likewise. Thank you very much.
My pleasure.
Thank you very much to Henry for his time there. Great to hear some little snippets of how he works, the story he has, and his passion for England. Thank you. And of course, you can follow him on Twitter @HenryWinter. Now, I'm sure you may have read and seen in the news the passing of another former England player. Shortly after Norman Hunter and Peter Bonetti found the new pitch in the sky, they were joined by Trevor Cherry. Trevor made 27 appearances for the Three Lions between 1976 and 1980 under both Ron Greenwood and Don Revie. Whilst he scored double figures for club sides Huddersfield Town and Leeds United, he never found the net for England, or Bradford City, who he also represented. He was captain of the side once in a game away to Australia, but Cherry had the misfortune to make history when he became the first England player to be sent off in an international, away to Argentina in 1977. Trevor Cherry died suddenly and unexpectedly on the 29th of April, aged 72. Now, at the beginning of the episode, I did mention if you are an overseas England supporter, like Marco is, and would like to feature on the podcast, please do drop me a line. You can email 3lionspodcast@gmail.com. You can tweet me @3lionspodcast, and we're also on Facebook and Twitter. Would be great to hear from you. Now, I'll be back soon with another of our England at the European Championships podcasts. I hope you can join me for it. Until then, stay safe, look after yourself and each other. Cheers.